Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. So I've had the question recently about track length and why I went with the 155 on my new Khaos versus a 165. My last 850 was a 165. So I got a couple ideas for you. So this is my third Polaris RMK with the 155 track length. I've also had a 163 and most recently a 165. And so here's kind of the big differences. With the 155, I find you got to be going a little faster, especially in the trees. You got to be planning your lines, looking ahead a little bit more, and then really using momentum. So that kind of caters towards a more aggressive rider. Whereas when you have the 165, I find that you can get away with a little bit more. If you're not super aggressive and you kind of want to keep going a little slower in the trees, sometimes you can almost come to a stop, pick a line, or maybe pick a second line. Some guys always say have a plan B. And just in general, you can go a little slower. What I found with the 155s is they really like to get the skis up in the air, especially on the Khaos. The 9R definitely helps. On this one, we got the 325 track length, and this is one of the most playful snowmobiles I've ever ridden. When you're on a 165, the front end is definitely more planted, and if instead of riding the Khaos, you're on a Pro, the front end is even more planted yet. And so what that means is the front end is just going to stay down. Even if you're really aggressive on the throttle, the snowmobile likes to, like on a Pro RMK, the sled will kind of get up and plane out on the snow and then drive forward. Whereas the Khaos is a little less efficient, but at the same time, it's more playful. It makes the steering effort quite a bit easier, and that's just kind of my preference. Okay, so if you're a beginner rider or just kind of a newbie and you're just getting into the sport, you're not super aggressive, the 165 is actually going to be really useful for you. I find you'll just get stuck a little less, you can ride a little slower. It's definitely more capable than the 155. But now, if you're aggressive like me or experienced or an advanced rider, that 165 is just going to wash out less. So when you're on a side hill, the 155 will tend to wash out, and what that means is the front end will stay where it's at, but then the back end will slide down the hill, and then all of a sudden you're pointed uphill. And so on the 155, you just always got to be prepared for that, and if it starts to happen, you know, counter steer, or maybe sometimes you actually got to end up going up the hill and do a bit of a hop over and flip around and go back the other way. With the 165, it's going to hold its line on a side hill a lot better than a 155. And the Khaos, it's not as good as holding a side hill as a Pro. So on my previous 165, I found I could just go anywhere. It took away some of the challenge, but at the same time, I was getting stuck a lot less. I could go a little slower, even though I wasn't going that slow. Okay, one other point I'll make is if you're a lighter guy or gal, and let's say you're under 150 pounds or right around there, the 155, it's actually going to be probably plenty of sled for you. But when you get up around 200 pounds or heavier, the 165 is actually going to support your weight a little bit more. You're going to have more surface area on that track, the 165, and that's just going to give you better flotation in the deep powder. So something to consider. I'm just under 200 pounds. I really like to keep momentum up when I'm riding, and I find with the 155, I can just get away with it. So that's a lot of things to think about, and I don't know if that made it easier or more difficult for you to choose 155 versus 165. But from my experience, when I went with the 165, I found it was a little bit tougher to get the front end to lift, and I'm all about that. I love it. It's not the best for trying to get up the hill, and you might not be able to go as high if you're into high marking or trying to beat your buddies, but I definitely have way more fun on the 155. It's just a little bit more out of control. You got to use momentum. You got to be riding a little faster. You probably will get stuck a little bit more often. One other thing I forgot to mention is if you're in the back if you're putting your sled in the back of a truck like this, it's not going to stick out as far. That might not matter to you, but it actually matters to me a little bit. It's only, the 155 is 5 inches shorter on the ground than the 165. Some people that I know that really like the 165, heavier riders, people that don't want to ride super fast all the time, the 165 helps them cheat a little bit. They can slow down, pick their lines a little easier, and then go for it. It has more flotation, it's more capable. And then if you're an extreme rider and you want the best traction, the best flotation, the most capable sled, well, then you're probably going to be on a 165 850 9R or boost. And if it's deep, you're probably going to go with the 325 as well. At the same time, the 275 is a pretty wicked track. I'll have another video coming out about the differences between the 275 and the 325 soon. And I'll also have another video comparing the 850 to the 9R and the boost in both the Pro and the Khaos configurations. That one will be coming out in a week or so. So make sure you subscribe. Hopefully that helped. Smash that like button for me. We'll see you next time.